So I explained all the way up to where you couldn't go to Huntsville. You came down here to. There's a bunch of black men that were older than you, but then you met Daddy. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, well, but tell him about how the little lady that I got a ride with. We were going up the steps of HMA this Friday afternoon.
Right. That's the part you're telling me.
And he'll understand.
I'll explain it. I'll explain that after.
Okay, on a Friday, my friend that I helped with the gas coming from Phoenix to here, we had come for college day, but then I came back in September. And so we were going up the steps of HMA, and she said, Eleanor, look. And I looked and saw this young face. I said, oh, see, that. And I said, oh my goodness. So I was happy. But as I approached, we were at the bottom, and he was up at the top talking to someone in Spanish, a gentleman. And I thought, he's not going to pay me any attention. He's probably dating Mexican girls, because I took Spanish and I knew some Spanish, but being at the bottom of the steps, I couldn't understand. So anyway, we went on up, and I said, good morning, going to chapel. And he said, good morning. Now the next day was Sabbath. And now several of these young men, these older men, 28, 29, I'm 18, the monitor would say, Eleanor, you have a visitor in the lobby. And I went down, because I didn't know him yet. This was prior to meeting him. So I had gone maybe 8 times during this, since I'd gotten there a few weeks. But several had invited me for this or for that. But I didn't want to go anywhere with 30-year-olds, and I'm 18. So I just said, oh, thank you, no. So I'd done this maybe 5 times. But this Sabbath morning, about 9:30, the monitor said, Eleanor, you have a visitor in the lobby. And I said, oh, boy, do I have to go through this again? But something said, oh, go on down. So sure enough, and when I went down, there he was. And he said, I grinned from ear to ear. He said, good morning. I'd like to take you to Sabbath school this morning if you'd like. I said, oh, thank you. So I ran upstairs. Now, Daryl explained to him that in these days we were wearing long skirts with an underskirt. They were sheer, and you needed to put your underslip on. So, did he understand? You understand?
He didn't, but I'll explain all that.
Yeah, so anyway, I ran up and got dressed and came down, and we started walking to the church. And it was a bright sunny morning, about 10 o'clock. And he said, oh, I can see through your outfit. And I said, oh, I'd forgotten to put the slip on. Oh. And he could see through it. So I said, thank you. So we went back to the dorm, and I put it on. He said, oh, that's better. And so as we walked, I said, oh, I know a little Spanish. I took Spanish at the academy in Arizona. He said, did you understand what I was saying the day, yesterday when you were coming up the steps? I said, well, I was at the bottom and you were at the top. No, I knew it was Spanish, but I couldn't tell what you said. And he said, I was saying, you see that little girl? One day she may be mine.
Wow.
And from then on, we were like this.
All right, let me.
So you told me. No, so anyway, from then on, it was like this. And now I'm going to tell him about how my parents, there were 5 of us. And so he had asked me, I told my mother that I'd met a nice young man. And, so happy to meet someone. But of course, now in the 50s, early 55, 3 it was, some of the girls were becoming pregnant. That was getting popular, At our church, my father's church, 3 little girls had gotten pregnant. And just in general, people were, the morals were coming down. And since I'd never had a hug or a kiss or any dates, because as I said at the church, everybody was 13, 14, or 21, 22. And at the academy, I was the only colored at the academy for the whole 4 years. So I didn't get to go to any of the programs or banquets or anything. So when the Oakwood group, have you ever heard the Aeolians? You know the Oakwood, they sing beautifully, and I'd see the nice dark young men. I said, oh my, I want to go to Oakwood. But there were 5 of us, and my parents didn't have money to send them. And so, but I always, my favorite text, in all thy ways acknowledge him. He directs our path, and all things work together for good to those that love the Lord, to those that are called according to his purpose. So I didn't want to come here, but I didn't make a big issue, but I thought, well, how is this working for my good? Over here, there's nobody my age, and by now, 18, I wanted a boyfriend and a hug and a kiss occasionally. But anyway, so my husband and boyfriend, he said, would your mother like to come to the mother-daughter banquet? You know, Mother's Day. And I said, there are 5 of us, we don't have the money. Thank you. And he said, well, you know, see, because I was 18 and a freshman, and he was 19 and a junior. So he was very studious, and he was a junior 2 years ahead of me. So he had saved up working in the janitor department. So he said, well, you know, I've been here a while and I've built up. Oh, and plus, a couple times, just before coming, my mother then called to say my dad was behind in my payments. And they said, you'll have to go home. And so I didn't want to tell him that. And we'd been dating maybe 4 or 5 or 6 months, but I felt that was inappropriate. So I didn't say anything for a while. But when they called me to say, last time, I'm sorry, but you really. And so I told Aaron, I said, well, you know, my phone didn't have the money, and I, you know, he said, oh, no, I can help. He said, you know, I have built up 2 years extra. So I said, oh, well, I didn't want him to do that. But I did want him to do it because I wanted to stay. So anyway, he started to get books for me and help me with the registration and what have you. So anyway, he said, would your mother like to come to the banquet? And she did come. And she was, you know, happy to meet him. Now, Daryl explained to her how after the banquet, we went to the dorm into Gladwin, waiting for whatever reason, and he waited for us in the lobby. And as we were coming down the steps, after whatever we were doing, he was waiting for us. But as we were coming down, she said, Eleanor, you seem like a nice man, but you need to meet others. You know, she just thought you just one person you met, and she could tell we cared a lot about, and probably began to think, oh, you know, they look like they really. But I had always, in fact, the year that I finished high school there at the academy, someone had given me the little book, Happiness for Husbands and Wives. Wow. And over the years, I had always said I'd keep myself. And would you believe, Aaron is the only person I've hugged, I've kissed, never any. Oh, and Aaron had to tell people, I have a way of touching. He said, honey, be careful after we married. He said, men can get the wrong idea. Because I was a toucher, being a pastor's wife, daughter. I just do that. It's just something. But he told me, you be careful because people can take the wrong idea. No, but so anyway, my mother wasn't, I'm going to finish up. She wasn't too happy because he isn't talkative like I am. Although he was principal and teacher for years, he, didn't just blah, 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 blah. He'd answer what she'd ask, and that was it. And so later she had told me, and she left the next day, and she said, had told me, Eleanor, you need to meet others. And plus, the folk being in Mexico, it's good to know family. and I had not met his family and blah, blah, that type of thing. She said, you need to meet others. And I just said, Mother, we hug, we kiss. I said, but I'm not in any way being sexually, but that's easy to say, that. She thought, oh, you look like you really care about each other. So she was not that happy. So he finished in June 1955, but he wanted to give me, and we were engaged. He asked if we marry after the 2 years of knowing each other. And they said yes. And my mother, didn't say no. But she did not let me stay. She made me come. She let me stay 2 days here while he got ready to go to LA to work on his master's. But she didn't let him pay my tuition for the next 2 years. But when I got to Milwaukee, where my dad, because they moved him from Phoenix to Milwaukee, and again I questioned,